2020 is presenting students, teachers, and educators with a problem we never thought we'd have to face, a stress that we didn't think was going to be there. We're having to do homeschooling and virtual learning from home, and it's kind of painful. It's stressful. It's boring to do school. At least it can be, but what if we could make it more interesting? What if we can make it more fun? Well, if you stick around to the end, I've got a bunch of resources, and it's going to be websites, and it's going to be games, and it's going to be all sorts of things, including printables that you can use to help make school a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get started and figure out how we can introduce everybody to our new virtual assistants. Welcome back to Ritter Gaming, everybody. I'm Wes, and today we're talking about something that can be kind of painful and actually might be a lot of parents' worst fears. We're not getting a break, right? It's hard enough to just talk to our kids and get them to open up and just receive information from us sometimes. School can be extremely boring if all we're thinking about is just sitting still and staring at a whiteboard or staring at a book. Do me a favor, think back to when you were in school and what was the most boring subject you had. Give me a challenge, write it down below in the comments, and I'll see if I can go find a game or some type of way to make that subject so much more fun. So it's not only fun for the kids that we're trying to teach, but for us as we're trying to teach our kids. I'm gonna start this off a little bit different than I thought I was going to when I started the script and I had the idea for this video, because I had some really boring teachers and games really weren't there. But when I thought back to it, all the teachers I really enjoyed learning from implemented some type of game in their class. So games have been there for a long time, just not necessarily video games and not necessarily board games. Some of the best teachers, though, have been using games for a long time. And this could be everything from a simple card matching game when you're in elementary school all the way up to doing Risk or some form of Dungeons and Dragons in high school. And yes, I know everybody made fun of Dungeons and Dragons, but think about it. If you're role playing your way through history, it's a lot better than just reading a boring textbook and trying to do an essay, right? What are some of the positives of gaming in the classroom? Well, that's actually going to be kind of easy. It's going to be problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork, communication. You have math, language, and introductions to different types of art and music throughout this whole thing. You've got economics. You've got being able to plan ahead, the ability to have empathy, sympathy, and teaching morality throughout these games. There is a thing called game school, and it's been laid out as elementary, middle, and high school ages, and they use games to help reinforce what's being taught. Games aren't necessarily the only medium being used, but they're definitely being used to reinforce what's being taught, because whenever you're having fun, you're more likely to remember what you're doing. I mean, I'd rather learn math or vocabulary through games than writing it all down 10, 20, or 100 times. And depending on what age we are, I mean, you have Scrabble Jr., Dinosaur Snap, Connect 4, Alphabet, Math, Go Fish, Bingo, the list goes on. I mean, Jenga for crying out loud. But games can teach so much more than that, and really, that's where the magic begins. One of the most vicious games in history is Monopoly, and I mean, that is the worst game ever. But besides teaching about the value of items and money, Monopoly is terrific when you learn about how to be a good winner and a good loser. And then you have puzzles and chutes and ladders and Jumanji, and these all help teach problem solving and critical thinking skills. And then maybe we want to help our middle schooler think a couple of steps ahead through a process. Well, chess is fantastic at that. You actually start anticipating other people's moves based on what benefits them. During 2020, Twitch had a surge in chess like no other community. It virtually revived the game. And while we're talking about Twitch, I'm just going to roll into some of the ways that video games can also help in our kids' education. We listed that games can help in a few categories, but can video games do the same thing? So we're going to take all those metrics that we had before, and we're going to apply them to my least favorite game, Fortnite, another game that's actually one of my new favorites, Animal Crossing, a classic that I just started playing, which is Minecraft, and then I can't miss out on Civilization series. That's one of the best games for teaching that I think I've ever run across. Fortnite, and yes, I can hear the collective sigh of parents from here. It is a first-person shooter battle royale where players can go solo or in their teams up to 4 people. And I understand, it's the scourge of parents for years, but I'm saying that it can and does help. How does Fortnite help with school? Well, Fortnite doesn't necessarily help with school itself, but it does help with critical thinking and communication and teamwork. Yep, 4 people get on together, and it can either be 4 friends or it can be 4 random people that are having to work together and adapt to each other, and they're having to learn how to communicate quickly to help solve a problem. Although the map doesn't change from round to round, because of the way the game's structured, players have to think ahead. They have to anticipate what their opponents are going to do, and then they have to apply critical thinking to get in and out of traps. Battle Royales, especially Fortnite with its unique building mechanic, force players into that rapid critical thinking to overcome the stressful situations. And this doesn't even touch the hand-eye coordination or the reaction time improvements that have been proven through studies about video games and first-person shooters in particular. Okay, I get it. So some parents aren't going to allow shooters into their house, and I fully understand and I support you if you choose to do that. But let's talk about Animal Crossing's New Horizons. It debuted in March alongside Doom Eternal. I get it, no shooters. And supports up to 8 friends playing together. And they can compete in bug and fish catching competitions. They decorate their islands and their houses, and they're working through puzzles and mazes. Oh, did I mention that there's a museum? It displays fossils of dinosaurs, extinct mammals, and you got all the bugs that you've caught and all the fish. And you can go through and talk about all this stuff. In fact, there's a little owl named Blathers who ironically hates bugs, and he will tell you fun little facts about every single thing that's donated to the museum. But the amount of detail put into Animal Crossing's New Horizons is absolutely fantastic because biology doesn't stop at just what bugs or fish you can catch. The actual breeding of flowers follows the real recessive and dominant traits of breeding for flowers. I mean, it's fantastic. You can go through and teach, okay, this is what happens when you put 2 flowers next to each other and they pollinate. And that doesn't even touch on the fact that you have seasons based on where the player's located and what hemisphere they're in. It doesn't talk about the game economy with the stock market and then the third-party economy where art's exchanged and turnips and tickets and fruit. And yes, I'm talking about art. There's real classical paintings from across the world. You have to be able to tell the real ones away from the fake ones. It's amazing what little bits of information and culture from throughout the world are being thrown at the players and they're retaining it. Another game that probably doesn't need an introduction for parents is Minecraft, and Minecraft does have creative and survival mode, and they're just how they sound. The creative mode allows players super abilities like flight and all the objects they could ever want for all time, just so they can build to their heart's content. And this allows for the community to go through and build everything. I mean, they can rebuild their cities, they can go through and work on building their own Taj Mahal, and it's a very good way to go about constructing a puzzle and think about planning things out and the engineering. I mean, there's coding and there's Minecraft education. You can go through and do all these things that allow for you to understand how things flow together and work together. Minecraft can be used in so many different ways that I don't know if I can actually get into it into this video. I'm going to have to do a separate Minecraft video. I mean, that's just the creative mode. And then you have survival, which gives limited resources and players have to think quickly and they have to be able to survive the night and all the terrors that it brings. But they can also have a community and work together and have teamwork and communication. Minecraft is one of those games that it's stuck around since 2009 for a reason. It's a classic and it's good and it brings people together. And last but not least is the Civilization series. And Civilization's been around since, I think, the beginning of computer games. And this series is great for young and old alike. And the reason why it's so good is because you can automate many of the mundane aspects of running a civilization, but they can also be micromanaged. And this helps everybody from the young kids who don't understand the full economic scope of what's happening, all the way up to your seasoned veteran within Civ, who might be a poli-sci major at university, and they have to do resource management, economics and budgets, cultural development, politics, war, diplomacy. There's so much that other YouTubers have devoted scores and scores of hours into getting down into the details of that I can't do right here because it's so much. And if you really want to focus in on the economy, or you really want to focus in on culture, you really want to focus in on how you can do research and science expands upon itself and broadens the horizons of the entire society, you can do that in Civ. You can set up a scenario so that you can play through with a 6-year-old and teach them how you go from the Stone Age all the way to pyramids. Gaming is limitless potential because you can do it over and over again and put in new scenarios and new situations. And it doesn't have to be all on the PC or all on the Switch. You can pull out the board games. You can pull out the cards. You can go through. You can have great interaction. In fact, there's some games that I absolutely recommend that you play as a board game. Ticket to Ride is fantastic as a board game. The PC version, not so much. Uno, much rather play Uno in person. I'd much rather play Monopoly in person, but they're not bad on PC. They're pretty good. But there's some things about games and gaming, and if used correctly, you can reinforce hey, this is economy, this is numbers, this is language. You want to learn how to spell, you want to learn how to type, you want to learn how to use a computer for work. You can do all of these things through gaming. All right, I'm getting off my soapbox. This is supposed to be a short video. It's probably a lot longer than I intended to make. I'm going to go ahead and start throwing those resources out. Game School is an awesome program from what I've been able to look at so far. I'm going to continue to throw additional resources into the description down below. And if you have any questions, you can always come through, check me out on Twitch. I stream every Wednesday and Friday from 9 to 11 Eastern time. I usually have my wife in the room, so if you have a question for her as well, I can ask her. I don't always promise an answer from her. And then you can also go ask me on Twitter or Instagram. Links for all that are down in the description below. Anyway, this has been Wes from Ritter Gaming. Once again, thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed the video, press like, maybe even hit subscribe. It's all up to you. I don't really care, but it does help YouTube know to push the algorithm and push the video to more people so we can create a better gaming community one person at a time. Once again, I'm Wes. This is Ritter Gaming. Grab those games, let's game on and have a good time.